Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.
Hey everyone, welcome to the course entitled Identifying the Pest, course number 2665. This course has been approved by the North Carolina Landscape Contractors Licensing Board for 1L credit for licensing renewal period July 31st, 2025. So as long as you take it before 7/31/25, you will get 1 credit for your North Carolina Landscape Contractors license. Now, if you were to take it after July 31st, it would be used for reinstatement. Now, what I wanted to tell you about this course, that we did it as a webinar a couple of years ago as a pesticide credit. It is not approved for online courses as pesticide credit. So you're only getting landscape contractor credit in this course. And so you will see the webinar. You'll see several people, several individuals that were a part of the webinar. So it is very interactive and we learned a lot from each other. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that before we get started. So anyway, welcome to the course, Identifying the Pest, course number 2665. Once you finish watching the lecture, you must go to the quiz, take the 10-question quiz, and once that is passed with a 70 or above, you will be able to download your proof of attendance. So, and of course, if you have any questions, you can email me at ejones@turfteacher.com, or you can give me a call at area code 336-414-9719. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next lecture. We're going to talk about identifying the pest. We're just going to look at some pictures of some insects and stuff like that. But can you guys tell me right off the bat, what is the number one reason we have a pesticide failure? We actually get the phone call from Mr. and Ms. Smith, whoever calls us, our finest customers that we have. Our technicians go out, see what's going on, and then make the application, and the pest is not taken care of. What is the number one reason?
Didn't identify the correct pest.
Exactly. This is exactly what the title of this is. So we got to know our bugs. We got to know our diseases. We got to know what's going on. And, you know, it's kind of like plant materials. If you're not using the plants and seeing the names and touching those plants every single day, you'll recognize it, but you may forget that name of it. And so that's basically all we're going to discuss is looking at some of these bugs and talking about, you know, what it is that they do. And so we'll get started with identifying insect pests. We'll talk about products useful in identifying insect pests. And based on where you guys are in the state, you know, whether if you're on the East Coast, in the mountains, even here in middle North Carolina, you know, you may be using different products. So please speak up, bring in your expertise, your knowledge of what's going on out there with your properties. We learn more from each other than we can ever learn from just myself or these slide decks. Us having these deep conversations and talking about what it is that we see on a daily basis. Sorry about that, it jumped. We can learn a whole lot more, but we'll talk about these products useful in identifying insect pests. We'll talk about the body parts of insects that are useful in identification, and then even common fruit and foliage energy. And so, first and foremost, we will talk about arthropods with their excreted and secreted products. And honeydew, big problem. Not only does it cause aesthetic problems, but it can actually cause some financial damage, you know, or even medical damage if a customer of ours has a bunch of honeydew fall on top of their car, it drips on their car, whatever, you can have damage to the paint. So that's going to be a financial. And I've actually had situations where I've known of somebody actually, you know, jogging through a neighborhood, kind of slipping in some of this honeydew, and then it becomes, you know, some medical damage. But honeydew, when piercing, sucking insects feed on the phloem of plants. So basically that's the pipes inside the plant is what I like to call it. Those are the tubes that's going to carry, you know, food and water throughout the plant. They are feeding on that phloem, and they're going to excrete a sugary substance called honeydew. And if
Here,
this honey, sir,
is it
hey, Grant.
me or it seems like the last 5 years the crepe myrtles have got a lot worse.
Yes, yes, they have. And why do crepe myrtles? Why do they get so much honeydew, or why do they get so much of this? What is the one thing that we do to crepe myrtles that creates this problem?
Great murder.
Crepe murder,
Yep.
100%. Crepe murder. Now, and I'll tell you a little bit about crepe murdering after, but the reason we get so much sooty mold and this honeydew stuff all over the crepe myrtles is when we cut them back. You know, what happens in the spring? You know, everybody wants those crepe myrtles top back, perfect, look like the perfect little honeycomb that they have. What happens? What do we get immediately when the springtime gets here?
Flush of new growth. Yeah.
Flush of new growth. Exactly.
Tender,
so-
succulent shoots.
Yes. And that's what the aphids are attracted to. The aphids are going to go for that succulent new growth. And they're going to hang out there. They're going to live there. They're going to feed on it. And so when you have aphids, you're going to have these honeydews, and especially on the crepe myrtles. And what else does, what does that honeydew then attract?
Bees.
So when you,
Fungus.
Scale.
Art scale.
Scale.
and what else though that people do not
Bees.
like? The bees.
Mm.
Bees is there, but I'm thinking of something else that crawls all
Ants.
over the ground.
Ants.
Ants. The ants.
Yeah.
These ants will fight tooth and nail to protect the aphids. They don't want nothing to get them. They are protecting them because the ants want that honeydew to actually eat. So,
Wow.
it's cool how Mother Nature works. But you know, pollarding, cutting back crepe myrtles. You know, will it ever kill a crepe myrtle? If we cut it back, we could cut it to the ground and it's still going to come back, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But where did pollarding? And pollarding is the true definition of actually cutting a tree back or tree topping. Where did pollarding actually originate? Because our
Energy
ancestors,
companies, power lines.
well, yeah, here in America, but I'm talking about like even back in history before we had electricity. Our ancestors used to plant trees really, really close to the house, and they did that for heating and cooling purposes. And so they realized, hey, we plant these trees real close to the house. They're going to grow up. We're going to have this coverage. We've got homemade hand bricks that we've made the house out of. During the summer, you're going to have the cooling effect of the shade because the trees are right on the house. It comes fall time. They cut these trees back for firewood, so they're heating their house. When they also open up the trees and cut it back, pollard them back, you've got the sunlight that's shining through these trees instead of being blocked by the shade, actually warming up their again homemade hand bricks. And then they'd have that flush of growth in the spring. All that comes out. There's even more firewood and kindling to actually help start the fires in the fall and winter time. So our ancestors did it, basically to stay alive. I mean, they were, a lot smarter than we were these days, I say, because they were using what they had to stay warm and stay cool. So if this honeydew persists on the leaf surface, we will get the sooty mold. The high sugar content of the honeydew will encourage growth of a dark fungus, and that's basically what we see all over those crepe myrtles. And it's nasty looking. And if you examine a plant and notice sooty mold, you should look closer for an insect from the order Homoptera. And these insects will have a piercing, sucking mouth part that produce honeydew. It's going to be your aphids, soft scale, white flies, and even the mealy bugs. And so here's aphids, and look, there's ants right there protecting these little guys. Ants and aphids. Ants will protect them so they can exploit them for the honeydew. And here's just a picture on the rose. And so what is the coolest thing about the aphids? Like, I mean, I swear, Mother Nature, nature is just awesome. They're asexual. They do not need, the female aphid does not need the male aphid. They can reproduce. All they care about is reproducing that next generation. And then there is the sooty mold on a magnolia leaf. And you got the scale right there that you can see. Sorry, I was using the mouse on the wrong slide. I've got two slides open, but you can see that scale right there. All right. If we see fecal or tar spots, the fecal matter from insects that suck the sap from the leaves. The size of the spot will depend on the size of the insect. Below is tar from a lace bug. You can see the lace bug right there, but you see the little tar spots right there. Other insects that will leave the fecal or tar spots would be your thrips, lace bugs, spider mites, plant bugs, and some leaf hoppers. So, just identifying what's left there or what that the insect is producing, we can, go ahead and say it's going to be one of these, and then we may have to do a little more investigation. But there we do see the lace bug. With frass, this is a solid excrement produced by insects that eat solid food rather than the sap. And the texture and consistency will depend on their diet. And as you can see, basically, leaving the waste there behind on the leaf. I wonder if those would be good for fishing. I'm sure a lot of people would use them. Tomato hornworms, went into a pet store not long ago and they were selling tomato hornworms because a lot of people were having these pet lizards and iguanas and stuff. And it was, their favorite food, and they were selling them like 3 for $15. So, we don't want them on our tomatoes, but people are buying them up for the little bugs, for the little lizards. Silk. So we walk up and we see silk or a webbing used by insects to make a shelter. So they're actually tying these leaves together, making cocoons, and they can actually snare their prey in it. So kind of like a spider. But caterpillars use the silk for shelters, tie the leaves together. You've got leaf rollers, fall webworms, and even tent caterpillar. And so the easiest thing when you see something like this is, go ahead and cut it out, and throw it on the fire pit, because it can be very damaging. But very easy to notice. I mean, that's the good thing about these guys is you will see these nettings, these webbings all over the place.
Eric,
Sir.
why is it mostly you see them on a lot of pecan trees?
Yeah.
On pecans? Huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On the so which the webworms, or what is it that you're seeing?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking it is, the webworms.
I don't know. What part of the state are you in?
We're in Harnett County.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good
You
question.
know, if we spray or start early spraying, you can control them a lot. But if you don't do any spraying, I mean they'll get all over the trees.
All over the pecan trees.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Anybody else seeing that?
Yeah, here in Columbus County, I see it a lot.
Okay. Now, I'm trying to think, I didn't understand what counties y'all both said. Y'all on the eastern part or?
Yeah, I'm in Harnett County.
Hornet
I'm
County.
in Columbus County.
Columbus County. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, next to North Myrtle Beach.
Okay. Okay. All right. I don't know. I will look into that and I'll send you guys an email about that because very seldom do we even see a pecan tree up here. So
That's right. Yeah.
We've got like 8 of them.
on your house at your property.
Yeah, on my property, I got 3 properties. Yeah, we got 8, and yeah, they in the springtime, fall, it don't matter.
All over.
They'll come anytime over here.
So you can't really go back and just cut anything out like that because you'd be cutting the whole tree, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's pretty hard. Like I say, I got 21 on my property here.
Wow.
And like I say, if you start trying to spray the trunks early in the year and maybe I have took like a stocking and put 7 dust around the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
That will help. And then I forget what months I've talked with some of the pecan growers. There's 2 or 3 months there you got to try to spray up in the tree as far as you can, and that'll help out, but it still won't eliminate them.
What are you spraying them with?
Mostly 7 or maybe orthene.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Hit them with
Do what, Jordan?
hit them with bifan. It'll kill them.
Bifan.
Bifan to kill them.
But they say what I've been told, you need to get them in the spring of the year before they come up out of the ground and go up the tree.
Gotcha. Yep. Well, good stuff there.
Dormadol
And
should help.
do what, Grant?
Dormadol should help.
Oh, yep. All right. Here we have web spinning sawfly on some evergreens, and then you have your lace wing cocoons. And so basically, this is just evidence that we are looking for. And if we can recognize the evidence, we'll be able to pinpoint which insect it is. And I'm sorry, I cannot figure out how to turn off this automatic slide moving. Let's see, maybe that's it. Okay. All right, spider mite webbing. You know, maybe you might have to get a little closer to actually see that on the plant material, but almost a little fog that you can see there, and you know, possibly could be seen a lot better. Morning light coming up with some dew hanging on that webbing, but this is your spider mite webbing. With wax, you have the Asian citrus psyllid wax, beeswax, the woolly aphid, mealybug, and scale, you know, all representing, you know, from your Asian wax, your beeswax, and you got the woolly aphid, you got your mealybug, and then you got your scale. Mucus trails produced by snails and slugs, and clear, almost whitish looking, almost like saliva, you know, coming there from the snail. And then the slugs is more of just a wet pattern. And, you know, when the rains come, you're going to see these guys crawling on your doors, on the windows, patios. They come out when they have the moisture there. But if you don't see the actual insect, you can see the actual trails.
Have you ever seen a hammerhead worm?
I have not.
I had
What does it, what does it look like?
in Fort Mill. They eat the earthworms.
They eat the earthworms.
Yep. They look like a hammerhead shark, but they're long and skinny.
Long and skinny.
Yeah.
And just got a fat head and a slender body.
Yeah. And the ones I saw this morning were like 18 inches long. Going across the street.
Yeah.
But I mean, I treated my yard, so I don't see them around, but I see them up the street, people untreated yards, and it's crazy to see.
And where are you at, Robert?
Fort Mill.
Okay, so so that's what, South Carolina?
Yeah,
Down
just
below
south of Charlotte.
Just south of Charlotte. Okay.
Yep.
All right, and so the sandy soil, and it's an 18-inch worm.
Yeah.
Hammerhead worm.
Yep. It's
Okay.
called a hammerhead worm. I didn't know about it until my neighbor pointed it out a couple of years ago, and ever since then, it's like I see them all the time now.
Gotcha. Is anybody else seeing them?
Never seen it.
No.
Nobody.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Okay.
They're invasive species. We got them in Charlotte.
You do. Okay.
Oh.
Well, yeah, not being too far for him, and I guess, you know, just, you know, the sandier soils down that way. But I don't know. We'll be on the lookout for them. I'm sure. Yeah, as things migrate, you know, what's the one thing that we're seeing here in North Carolina from Texas now?
Armadillos.
Armadillos. Yeah. Has anybody seen any?
No.
No.
I think the closest that they've gotten here to Winston for us, I think they were located somewhere down, I think even in Salisbury. So, you know, a lot of things are happening. Maybe
They've
it's
been down in here, Indian Land, where I am, just south of Indian Land. People have been putting them online that they've seen them.
that they've seen them. Yep.
Yeah. Dead on the road.
Yeah. So,
Eric,
but
are you getting fire ants where you're at yet?
not on any of our properties. I mean, we just
We got
don't.
some
And it,
toward the
Go ahead,
southern end of Guilford County. We have some,
Okay.
but not. They're starting to get here though.
Gotcha. Yeah. And again, they'll spread, you know, each year, you know.
Are you having to treat
Migrant.
any at all for fire ants?
I've
here?
treated some.
Yeah.
Yeah, the southern part of Guilford County's got them.
I've heard people here in Forsyth say they've seen some of that. None on our properties so far. We've had no complaints for customers, and we've not done anything. And we do, we do some mowing, but not much. More landscape maintenance management type stuff, and then the design build stuff. But none of our regular weekly customers we've had any fire ants. So I guess we're lucky, pretty lucky. So.
Very.
But if they're close to Grant, they're going to be coming to us.
They'll be there.
Yeah.
You're very lucky.
Yes. Yeah. And I know they say you're lucky, and are y'all having good luck with your treatments and getting rid of them, or is it a repetitive thing, and is it profitable for you guys?
Year after year.
Somewhat. Yeah.
So
We're
I know.
We're having to treat once a year. We treat in the spring, and it'll last all until the next spring.
Okay.
Yeah, once a year, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys are, you're making money, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't, and I guess this kind of goes back to a pesticide ethic question or whatever. A lot of these pests do make us money, right? And so if we were to eliminate them all, that could, really hurt our bottom line. So I always say that about crabgrass. We don't want to get rid of crabgrass, do we? Because you get 2 applications. And so, yeah, look at Jordan shaking his head.
Get rid of.
Get rid of it. But it's just one of those things. It does make money. Same thing, with the fungus, on our turf grass. I don't.
Why there's
don't-
mosquito fire ants.
Do what?
My daughter wants to know when she gets to heaven why there's mosquitoes and fire ants.
No. She's got to take
We
the
hope
possum.
not.
She's got to take the bats with her. That's number one pest control for mosquitoes is the bat. They eat a ton of them. So, but people are scared of bats too. They want to get rid of the bats out of their attics. So, if you've got a bat,
what are you treating your fire ants for? What chemical?
I used Adveron. You ever heard of it? Yeah.
Roger that. Have you ever heard of Taurus?
We're using Taurus.
Yeah, that's what we use.
I don't do it a lot because I've just got a couple properties that has it on there. So I'm just starting.
You're lucky.
Use Fipronil.
Yep.
Top choice, and the generic is Fipronil.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
All right. So body parts for useful identification. The cast skin. While developing, arthropods shed their skin. The old skin is called the exuvium. Insects with chewing mouth parts, the mandibular, will eat their old skin. And so insects with hausolate mouth parts cannot eat their own skin. It's left behind as evidence. And so there you have the aphid one and then the leaf hopper one. And so very distinctive. Even though the aphid is small, you can see them, with the naked eye. But you may have to take a little close, but with that leaf hopper, you can actually see a little bit bigger. Now, when it comes back to the aphids, and so I've always been impressed with these guys. But if you were to see an aphid and you were to see some dead aphids or whatever, and let's say we used a beneficial insect to kill them, and it would be a beneficial wasp. How does the wasp actually kill that aphid? Now, it's not going to do us any good in the landscape, but let's say we were a greenhouse grower and we had aphids. We could either release, ladybugs in there to eat them, or if we used a parasitic wasp, how does the wasp actually kill them?
Stings them and lays an egg.
Lays an egg inside of them, and those eggs hatch inside of them and eat the aphid from the inside out. So if you see that little black pinhole on the side of an aphid's body, that's where the hole and the wasp have emerged from that hole. Scale cover. Scale is a waxy covering that protects the insect during its development. The shape and color of the scale can help identify specific insects, and then a series of rings will develop after each molt, which can help you identify the stage of the insect. And so just some good examples of scale on some branches. Eggshells. When eggs hatch, many of the insects with the chewing mouth parts will actually eat the eggshell, but the insects, with the hostile mouth parts cannot eat the shell. And so you will see them actually left behind. You got your squash bug eggs. You got some more spider mites. Common plant injuries to fruit and foliage. When we examine plant injury, it can provide us with clues to the pests that cause the injury. There are environmental, weather, and disease factors that cause plant injury. And then we're focusing mainly here on the arthropods. But, on our farm, we grow, strawberries. We have a strawberry farm. It has been a bad year for environmental and weather conditions, not so much with insects or disease, but just the rain, the environmental conditions that will actually rot the berries, which, helps keep some of the insects down and, but, creates a whole lot other problems for us. With arthropod injury, we have bronzing, resetting, and then we're going to see some pictures of these as we scroll through the next slide decks. Cat facing, egg laying scar, surface feeding, defoliation, flagging, gall production, leaf cupping and curling, leaf folding and rolling, leaf mining, ovipositor wounds, and pansy spotting, and even reddening. And so with our bronzing and resetting, generally refers to the discoloration of the leaf or needle, while resetting is fruit. It is caused by a large number of mites or rust mites feeding over time. And when this type of injury appears on the fruit, it is called resetting. Resetting on fruit can be caused by many things, and it is not always undesirable. And it appears as a rough, leathery patch and gives the fruit a nutty flavor. So there's the leaf and the fruit, almost like a stippling brown cover on it, which does look like a bronzing or a rust color. Same with the fruit. With cat facing, caused by piercing, sucking insects that damage the area around where they are feeding, causing a pucker in the area of the fruit that grows around it. You can see here, down below. Egg laying can also cause small dimples, and then surface feeders will create the sunken areas. And the damage depends on the stage of the maturity of the fruit. The more mature the fruit is, it tends to rot rather than dimple. And here we have stink bug on immature and mature fruit. Good old stink bugs. More stink bug. Then here we have the apple red bug feeding injury. Guys can do some damage. With surface feeding, tuft apple bud moth surface feeding, and then a climbing cutworm injury. Just different examples of the surface feeding. Now, when it comes to like our fruit like this and stuff, people do not want their fruits and stuff to be sprayed with any type of insecticide. So what are some other options that we can do for that? Does anybody come up with that? It's, so many people ask, hey, Eric, are your strawberries, organic? And, we grow them so that we could get them certified organic if we want to. But what will that do? What would that actually do to my farm if I actually got my strawberries certified organic berries? People complain about the cost, going up every single year, but what if we got it certified? It's probably going to add, anywhere from $8 to $10 a gallon on getting that certification on what we would have to pay that third party person to actually come in. So we grow it the way it should and don't really use any chemicals. There's a lot of hand pulling of weeds, but we have a lot of people say, hey, are your berries organic? And when we say, no, but they are, responsibly grown, same individuals will come back into the sales yard and complain that there were insects out there. So, you can't really have both, right? And same thing when it comes to, garden plants. If I see some holes in my lettuce or whatever, I'm not really, going to worry about that. I'm going to wash the stuff off anyway. But it tells me that there has been no insects or pesticides applied to the fruits and vegetables that we are eating. So it is a hit or miss with people when it comes to these products that you're growing, if you are growing them to actually sell. But defoliation, leaf loss is a result of injury eating all or part of the leaf. This happens primarily with insects that have chewing mouth parts. Types of defoliation, we have notching, shothling, skeletonizing, and then window painting. And then with notching here, here's on the rhododendron caused by the black vine weevil. They're just doing these little notches. Sorry, I keep moving the mouse on the other side, but these little notches on the side of the leaves. And then the leaf cutter bee cutting pieces from the leaf margin for nesting material. And then they are essential pollinators in the wild, though. So, we don't really want to get rid of those guys. With shothling, here is a bean leaf by a bean leaf beetle, basically going inside of the leaf and getting it. Here's the adult flea beetle on a radish. They're going in between there. And then with skeletonizing, insects eat the leaf material away between the leaf veins, leaving behind what looks like a leaf skeleton. There's a Japanese beetle on a grape. Window painting, one of the leaf surface is left intact. It is usually the upper surface. This creates like a window pane, like almost like a transparency effect that the leaf has. This type of damage is done by young caterpillars and even some slug sawflies. So you can see just the actual top side, and then there is that transparent window pane looking. Flagging, wilting of leaves occur when water is prevented from entering the leaf as a result of girdling from insect feeding. It may, many insects can cause this type of damage from chewing or girdling the stems. Here is pine leaf going through the type of damage. Here you have the hornets girdling a river birch. Gall production. Galls can form on leaves, twigs, buds, and roots. They are caused by insects, can be open where the tissue shrinks back or closed where the tissue engulfs the insect. Marble gall here on oak sapling. The holes in the gall is from the wasp exiting. And then the marble oak wasp adults are small and rarely even seen. Leaf cupping and curling can be caused by feeding, injury from insects, thrips, plant bugs, aphids, psyllids. Damage below is caused by the ash leaf curl aphid. Boxwood cupping caused by psyllids from the order Hemiptera. Several species of caterpillar fold over the leaf margins. It's almost like it's rolled up right there and feed from within the leaf. Some species will roll themselves up in the leaves for protection and even shelter. And here is one caused by moth larvae. With leaf mining and needles, insects develop while tunneling through the upper and lower leaf surfaces. Here's a columbine plant with leaf miners. And you can see those white little tunnels that it's creating. With pansy spotting caused by stink bug feeding or thrips laying eggs. The pansy spotting on the fruit below is from the thrips laying their eggs there. With reddening, leaf reddening is sometimes caused by plants' response to the saliva of insects. It can be from aphid, scale, or spider mites. The process of color change from the original green is sometimes called fading, and below is reddening caused by the spider mite feeding on a grape leaf. With stippling, insects with the haustellate mouth parts remove cell sap from the leaves, causing stippling. Looks like speckles on the leaf surface. Can be done by leaf hoppers, plant bugs, lace bugs, also thrips, spider mites, and ovipositor injury. Azalea lace bug stippling on an azalea leaf, and then spider mite stippling here. Tunneling moth larvae they're actually tunneling through the fruit, and then there is the adult after it goes through its stages of life. And then egg laying wounds. Insects cause plant injury with their ovipositor while laying eggs, and then the egg laying scars on the pepper from thrips. And then here is the cicada. You see a scar on a twig. And is that going to be such a big deal this year? I really don't turn the news on to even see, guys.
It's awful here.
It was horrible at my place.
Do what, Mr. Murphy?
Cicadas, they were horrible.
They're horrible at your place. We're horrible at your
They
place.
were. Yeah, they're pretty much gone now.
We
Gotcha.
had a 7-year and a 16-year here. So 2 different noises.
Okay. Well, cool stuff. All right. So we're kind of into the slides. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. And so now we can see everybody. John's always at the mountains, man. Just chilling. That's Grandfather Mountain, ain't it?
Table Rock.
Huh?
Table Rock, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So, guys, any questions? Like I said, I know we finished up just a little bit early. Any questions, comments, concerns? Yay, nay?
Nope.
It was a very interesting class to me. It just moved kind of fast because, you know, I'm not like these guys. I mean, I kill grass around wastewater plants, you know,
Gotcha.
and you gotta have a certification if you're gonna charge money for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Well,
what I keep. But it's very interesting.
I'll send the slide decks out so you got the pictures.
Yeah, it'd be nice to slow it down. We had the cicada too. Had Waxhaw, North Carolina, Monroe. We had some in Harrisburg, North Carolina, but it was just you could hear it like riding down the road, just a hum, just that loud. You wonder what it was. Is that cicada? Yeah. So we supposedly have the 2 kinds in this area this year. So that was interesting.
They say copperheads love the cicadas. That was a good meal for them.
Oh, well, I hate copperheads. I make a living killing them down by the creek, checking water samples. So, yeah.
911 operators sure love the cicadas.
Hey, what?
911 operators.
Oh.
People calling in saying, hey, there's alarms going off nonstop.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones.
Oh, yeah!
Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.